The popular narrative of the Titanic suggests the ship was the victim of a freak accident, striking an iceberg that appeared out of nowhere in the dead of night. However, the North Atlantic was crowded that week. 9 other vessels were traversing the same lanes, and they were actively signaling one another about the risks ahead. Throughout Sunday, April 14th, Titanic's operators received Marconi messages from nearby ships. These reports described a 4-mile-wide ice field directly in the Titanic's path. The crew possessed the exact coordinates of the danger. Despite having this information on the bridge, the ship continued forward without adjusting its course. Following the disaster, Lord Mersey led the official British inquiry, tasked with identifying exactly where the ship's safety protocols broke down. Mersey kept a private journal during the proceedings. In it, he tracked the specific ice warnings reaching the Titanic, alongside the ship's own recorded drop in sea temperature. Among his notes, Mersey underlined one specific detail. As the ship entered the ice field, there was no reduction of speed. This left the investigation with a central mystery. Why did a captain as experienced as Edward Smith choose to maintain full speed in the face of such specific warnings? Bruce Ismay, the chair of the White Star Line, was the most influential passenger on board, exercising authority that superseded even Captain Smith's. Ismay's primary focus was the company's reputation. He wanted a high-profile, on-time arrival at the New York docks to secure the White Star Line's dominance. At 2 p.m. on Sunday, Captain Smith received a fresh ice warning from the Baltic and showed it to Ismay while they were on deck. Rather than returning the message to the bridge, Ismay stuffed the warning into his pocket. By withholding the physical telegram, he effectively suppressed the data from the rest of the crew. Captain Smith eventually retrieved the message hours later to post it in the chart room, but the decision had already been made to maintain a speed of 22 knots. The corporate pressure to keep to a schedule dictated the ship's operation, ensuring the Titanic was traveling at near full speed when it finally reached the ice. By prioritizing the corporate schedule over the wireless data, leadership forced the ship to rely entirely on what the lookouts could see with their own eyes. Typically, waves breaking on an iceberg create visible white foam, but that night, the unusually calm water was perfectly flat, leaving the ice nearly invisible. Furthermore, the 22-knot speed generated a freezing 25-mile-per-hour wind, causing the lookouts' eyes to tear, impairing their vision. Without the wireless data to guide them, the crew was essentially speeding blindly through a minefield of ice. At 11:39 p.m., lookout Frederick Fleet finally spotted a dark mass dead ahead and rang the warning bell 3 times. The ship's momentum created an impossible situation. First Officer Murdoch had less than 45 seconds to turn the speeding steel ship. As it scraped the iceberg, the impact ripped the double-plated hull. 6 compartments breached, allowing the frigid sea to pour in. The iceberg itself was a mass of glacial ice, weighing roughly 1.5 million tons. Compressed over centuries, the ice was dense enough to cut through the ship's steel like a knife through a tin of sardines. At that speed, the physics of the collision were already decided. The ship was doomed the moment the iceberg was sighted. Lord Mersey's private journal reveals his final perspective on the tragedy. He viewed the decision to maintain speed as an act of criminal negligence. The investigation suggests the disaster was a result of executive decisions made at the highest level of the White Star Line, which overrode the safety protocols that should have governed the voyage. The sinking of the Titanic serves as a case study in the consequences of prioritizing corporate interests over hard data, proving that even the most advanced engineering cannot overcome the risks of executive hubris.